Welcome back. So now we're going to talk about how to make the data work easily for you. This can be intimidating, and I don't want that to be the case. So reach out to me the moment you feel like you want to do this and you're feeling like it's a little intimidating, because I would love for you to love data as much as I love data. But I'm going to show you this, and so you can see the potential of it, and then please reach out, because this is what I get paid the big bucks for, to help you navigate. So when we want to look at our responses, and first actually let me show you, if I click preview, you can see that the form looks much more friendly to the faculty member. Oh, I remembered something I forgot to say. Earlier, I forgot to indicate that faculty should fill out this form every time they have a new ticket number. So if they're teaching 3 courses, they have to fill out this form 3 times. That makes the data come to you more appropriately. So sometimes faculty will want to lump 2 courses together. Let's say they're teaching the same course, and so they lump all the data together, and that's not ideal. We want there to be a unique ticket number for a unique data entry for each course. I'll have to make sure I make a note to fix the other video for that. All right, so when we're actually looking at the form in its edit mode, to get to the results, we're going to click on responses. Now, initially, you're going to see all of this fun pictures, and it looks great. Wow, we have pie charts. They're so pretty. But actually, that's not at all where the useful data are. Resist the urge to look at this. This is not that informative. Where the meat is, it's stored in a spreadsheet. So to get access to that, you're going to click on this spreadsheet icon here. Now, Google Spreadsheets is much like Microsoft Excel. So if you are familiar with one, then you're going to be fine in the other. The first time you click on this button, it will say, hey, where would you like me to save your data? And you'll kind of name the sheet whatever makes sense to you. But after you've done that, now every time you click on it, it will go to that data. So I've done that in the past. So it's now already synced to a spreadsheet. So if I click on this, you'll see that it's opened up a new spreadsheet. And you can see that, some of the first entries were back in 2017, and all of that data are still there. Notice it says fall 2017, but my form did not have a fall 2017 option. That's because when we got to fall 2019, I figured I didn't need 2017 anymore, so I removed it, but the data are still there. And so what I'd like to point out is that each ticket number gets its own row. And that's important for me to be able to analyze the data appropriately. So if you're ever recording data, I always tell my students each participant gets its own row, and then you can collapse later. It's better to have the system do the calculations than to ask faculty to sum up all their data and calculate their pass rates, because that's room for error. Perhaps some people are doing it one way and some people are doing it another way. If you have them report to you the raw data, how many people took the assessment and how many people passed, then you can make sure that you're calculating it the same way for everyone. So I just wanted to show you how this comes across to you. Notice I didn't have this question in my Google form, is this an honors course? Before we had to indicate whether it was honors, but now honors has their own SLO, so I don't have to ask that question anymore. So that question is no longer in my Google form, but if I scroll down, you'll see now people can no longer answer that question because I removed the question. Before, they had to answer, it was required. So the data from before are still there. It hasn't gone away, but now I cannot, because I removed the question, they cannot answer that and put it into the spreadsheet. So then I have a record of the ticket numbers, and again, I just use this to see who's kind of missing, really, so I can reach them and say, hey, don't forget to turn in your data. Then I have the type of assignment, the total number of students that took the assessment, the total number that passed, and then remember I said I had the skip question. I added this column here, so don't be confused. But I have the skip question, and then I've since removed that skip question. And then I have the comments. I used to have 2 comment boxes. One would be why they skipped, and one would be what you think's happening. I noticed that people were not differentiating between the two, so I removed the I just combined them into one and said, hey, tell me what's happening. But notice that I have a lot of meaty information here about what people are thinking is going on, things they want to share with me that I can share with the department, which I think is super cool. It gave me so much more to work with. So this data were very useful like this. However, this isn't how I would report it back to the school, right? I have to do, for all Psych 1 courses, here's my pass rate. So this is why I'm going to show you pivot tables. And don't be intimidated by pivot tables. So in Google Spreadsheets and Word, they're kind of in different places. So I should have looked up beforehand. Maybe I'll edit this piece out. Oh, there it is. So I think in Excel it's insert, but under Google Spreadsheet it's data, and then you scroll down to pivot table. Don't be scared. This will be awesome. Just bear with me for a minute. So data, pivot table, and now it's going to ask me where to put the pivot table. I want to put it in a new sheet, and I'm just going to call this video demo so I don't forget what was happening there. It's better than putting it in an existing sheet because things just get muddled. So I'm going to put it in a new sheet. Sheets form down here. So you can see I have one from spring 2019, one from spring 20. So, and then I make a fake one. So just make sure that you give it a name so you know what you're looking at. So I'm going to create. Oh, it doesn't like video demo. Oh, sorry. I jumped the gun. I thought that was the name of the new sheet. It's asking me for the data range. And if you saw when it first opened up, it had an option in there. Rather than highlight all the data, I'm just going to hit cancel and start over, and I'll point out why. I apologize. All right, so I'm going to click pivot table. Now notice it already has the data in here, and what that is, it defaults to all of your data. It defaults to saying just the whole sheet. So I just want to leave it like that. I want the whole sheet to be that I'm currently on to be the source of my pivot table, and then I'm going to put it in a new sheet. This is where I'm mixing up Excel and spreadsheets, because Excel will ask you the name of the sheet. So I apologize. So right here, what this says is data range. It's saying right now the whole sheet. How do I know that? It's saying form responses. So notice like this is called form responses 1. And then it's saying cell A1 to cell M105. So if I were to actually look at the data, it would start in A1 and go all the way down to M105. And so the way it's written, it's basically saying all the data in my sheet. So I'm going to hit create. So as is, the Google form isn't going to know what I want, or sorry, the pivot table isn't going to know what I want, so I have to put things in here. I want to point out that if you want to edit your table, you just have to be anywhere in the table and these options will appear. If you click outside the table, which I'm going to do here, notice my options go away. And sometimes people freak out and they go, oh no, I can't edit it. All you have to do is come somewhere in the table and click, and your options will come back. Okay, so this is where we will just go a little slower to make sure I don't scare you. But what I want to do is add every course as a row. So that means I have Psych 1, Psych 2, all listed out in a row. So I'm going to add, and it's asking me, these are the options that I had, and so I'm going to say each course. Notice now I have each course listed as a row. Cool. Now what I want is to now edit my columns. What I want is for the values to be, I want the pivot table to compute my values. So in the value section, which is going to be what's filled out in the table, I would like to add the total number of students. So here I'm going to click total students. So what has happened here, it added a column and it summed up all of the students in Psych 1, Psych 125, Psych 140, and I have them all listed here. Now I should mention this is across all of the courses from 2017 on. So I'm going to show you how we limit it to a particular year or semester. And in case you weren't sure what was happening, it's telling you it's summing all of the data in that particular column. I also would like the data on how many passed. So I'm also going to click add under values again. And now I want the count of pass. And so now what it is doing, if I see, it's summing up how many passed. So I'm almost there with the data that I wanted. Now, I haven't figured out how to make pivot tables do the math for you really easily. So I just go ahead and tell Excel to do the math for me, because really what we want is the percent of students who pass, because that's what we report back. So I'm just going to make my own column here and say percent of pass. And the way I'm going to tell Excel to do that is I could ask Excel to do the math for me in a couple different ways. If I ever typed in 1037 divided by 1478, if I hit enter, this is an Excel spreadsheet, will say 1037 divided by 1478. It didn't know that I wanted it to do math for me. So the way you ever communicate in these spreadsheets that you want math to be done is you hit the equal sign. Then I could type in 1037 divided by 1478. So now it's saying that that's 70%. That's really useful, but then I'd have to type that in for all of these, which is not that much fun. So let me show you a quick trick. I want the spreadsheet to do math for me, so I'm going to type in the equal sign. And what I wanted to do is take this box, I click on it, and I type in the divide sign, and then I click on this box. What I have asked the spreadsheet to do is say, take this box and divide it by this box. Now I'm going to hit enter. Notice it's the same number, but doing this bought us something. Now I'm going to put my, go in this box and see how there's a little blue box in the very right corner. If you change your cursor from the arrow and put it over that box, and it turns into this black plus sign. Once it changes, you click and drag all the way down. And what that has done is it said, you know how this was a formula where I said this box divided by that box, do it for each row. So it's copying my formula for each row. So 41 divided by 50 is 82. 13 divided by 18 is 72. Now, this doesn't look like it's in percent form. I would like it to, so I don't forget. So I'm just going to, while they're highlighted, click on percent, and now that looks like a very nice percent. Now, these are the data that you should be reporting to us. Now, I still have to fix it so that it's of the right year and perhaps of the right modality. But as it is right at this point, these are the data that you would want. So I'm going to click back into my pivot table, and now I wanted to limit it. Let's say I'm only looking for a particular year. So I want to filter by that year. So I'm going to click add. And then I'm going to click on the semester that the data were collected. And now it's saying, well, which semesters do you want? So I'm going to have to pick. So I'm going to pull my drop-down menu. Let's say I want to just do let's see what would make sense. Fall 17, spring 18. That would be 1 year, right? So I'm going to clear. And I would like to select fall 17 and spring 18. These are in alphabetical order, so that's why they look the way they do. But fall 17 and spring 18 is one school year that I would be reporting. So now if I click OK, now watch how the numbers, keep your eye over here, how the numbers shift. They're going to go down because I'm now just saying one school year. So I'm going to click OK, and notice my numbers dropped. And actually some of my courses dropped out because we didn't offer those courses that year. So this just says, hey, there's no data to look at. And that's okay. You can just leave that, because what you really wanted was this information anyway. But then if I changed the year and more courses were added, this formula is already ready to be there. So right now I'm looking at fall 17, spring 18 together, and here are my data. Now you might want to label them so you don't forget. You could either label the table this way. That's why I've have these labeled the way they are. So I might say fall 17, spring 18. The other thing though is I need to differentiate between the modalities, right? So when we ask you to report our modality, you can't just lump them together. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to click on my stuff, and I'm just going to copy. So I've hit copy. Here, I'll do it this way. Copy. And now I'm just going to put it over here. Paste. Oh, it doesn't. Never mind. I'll just hit the Control V. All right, so now I have just two copies of the same things. And I'm going to insert a row so I can make sure I'm labeling so I know what it is I'm doing. And let's say this one, let's do this modality as face-to-face. And we'll do this modality as online. So when I'm in the face-to-face box, I want to add a new filter. So I'm going to add filter, and it's going to be the modality, and it's going to ask me which modality. I'm going to clear this, and I'm saying, you know what? I only want the face-to-face in this box. So now I have the face-to-face. Notice my numbers dropped again because we're only looking at face-to-face. This is the data that I will enter in for your SLOs. And it says, what's the percent of students that passed? And I would say for Psych 1 face-to-face, it's 65.28 for this particular year. Now I want to have to report the online. So I'm going to come back over here. And remember, this one doesn't have that filter. So I have to add the filter of course modality, and I'm going to change it. And let's say I want to put both online and hybrid together. So I say OK. Button. Come on, button. There we go. And now my data have been updated. I'm just going to get rid of this screen so I can see all of it. So now, again, my numbers have dropped, but see how there's a different percent of pass for the different modalities? That's worth discussing in my department meeting. I can see that I have 80% pass rate. Oh, sorry, I don't have Psych 2 online. I'm trying to see something comparable. Psych 5. I have 84.6% pass rate face-to-face, but only a 62 pass rate online. Something worth discussing and seeing what the difference is and how can we bring this one up to par and what is needed. Lots of good stuff to talk about, and then type that stuff into the comments field when you're submitting your answers. So you can filter on anything that makes sense to you. It can be, I think, quite fun to explore the data, but even if you're not into exploring data, you can at least get these numbers pretty easily. I can change this to be another year if I needed to now look at, fall 2019. I could change my filter to now get rid of fall 17 and now say I want fall 19 and I just want to look at those data. Okay, apparently we only recorded that one from fall 19. But at least I have the ability to add these data in as I see fit. Now, I just want to show you something at the risk of intimidating you. I hope it won't. I just have to find where I put it. Okay. When I first started recording these in fall 2017, this is when I realized that there might be some meat here. So I made this table, don't be scared, but it was just using pivot tables. But I wanted to show you was something that was interesting. So I added lots of things in my pivot table. I edited whether it was honors, right? And so all these things have been edited in. But let me show you what this is saying. For Psych 1, that's not an honors course, that was fully face-to-face, I can break down the type of assignment. And what I found was if they had exam questions, there was a 92.9% pass rate. If it was multiple choice questions, it dropped to 69. If it was a writing assignment, it went back up to 82.8. That's really interesting. So we started having conversations about why that is. Now, the numbers, right? So we only 30 students, it was probably one class, we're using an exam question, but it launched a conversation in a department meeting. And that was really what I needed as a department chair, is I didn't know what to talk about and what notes to make and what changes to suggest or things to purchase or assistance to give people. But when I brought this to the meeting, we were able to discuss it and come up with some meaningful conversations that I don't think we would have had otherwise. It was just something to launch a conversation. And so I used these, and then I also used the original file. I didn't share who made comments, but I would look at the comments that were reported in the original data set. I'll go back to that here, and I would say, oh, someone mentioned, just trying to get to the comments. Oh, someone mentioned that practice questions might be helpful, or someone here mentioned that they would think that it would be better if they had better handouts, or right. So I would use these comments and look at them, and then I wouldn't share with the department who said them. I would just kind of list them out as things to discuss, and that launched really meaningful conversations that all of us enjoyed. So this form can really be a quick and easy way to get data. You're no longer doing the math. You're not asking for a bazillion emails to come to you. Instead, it's all being done on the back end. And again, I'll remind you that the form is really simple for them to use. They just have to fill it out one time for each course, and then the data are automatically delivered to you. And then when you're ready to have a department meeting, you just have to make a pivot table to get those numbers to discuss, and then you can enter all of that data for us so that we can see how wonderful your department is in working together and learning from each other.